Welcome back to the deep dive. Tonight, we're doing something a little different. I want you to, turn down the lights, maybe light a candle.
Set the mood.
Exactly. Imagine you're sitting by a fireplace, it's late, the house is quiet, the wood is crackling, and maybe, just maybe, the wind is howling a little bit outside.
A bit of a spooky vibe.
A little bit. You've got a drink in your hand, maybe it's tea, maybe something stronger, and you're ready to have your concept of reality just slightly twisted.
Adjusted.
Yeah.
Let's say adjusted, but yeah, twisted works too.
Adjusted, warped, expanded. Because the material we are covering today is, it is the definition of mind-bending.
It really is.
We are looking at a specific moment in time where the mundane world, rejection letters, sore wrists, paying the bills, it just collides head-on with the nature of the universe itself.
It's a fascinating juxtaposition. Tonight we're doing a deep dive into session 106 of the Seth material. Specifically, this comes from the early sessions, book 3.
And just to set the record straight for everyone listening, we are basing this on a session that took place on November 11, 1964.
A Wednesday.
Yeah, a Wednesday, 9 p.m.
A very specific moment in time. And before we go any further, I need to make sure we state our disclaimer.
Right.
This podcast will be distributed free of charge on all major platforms for educational purposes.
Yeah.
We're here to explore, to analyze, and, to learn. We are not here to tell you what to believe.
No, just to show you what's in the documents.
Exactly.
Right. And our mission tonight is, it's pretty specific. We want to understand a concept Seth introduces called reference points. It's this idea that the world is flat, literally like two-dimensional until you put on the 3D glasses of consciousness.
That's a great way to put it.
We're going to talk about how your focus literally creates the chair you're sitting in right now.
We're going to talk about the physical sensations of that focus shifting. We have some incredible notes from Jane Roberts, the woman who channeled Seth, about what it feels like when reality starts to ripple.
Literally ripple, like a waterbed. It's spooky stuff.
It is.
And of course, we have to give credit where credit is due. All of this comes from the Seth material, published by the New Awareness Network.
Yes.
If you get hooked on this, and you probably will, you have to go to the source.
Absolutely. We always encourage our listeners to go straight to the text.
Yeah.
You can find the books and more at sethcenter.com/the early sessions. Study them.
They are dense.
They are dense, but they are so rewarding.
So settle in. Let's get comfortable. And let's start with something that I think is just hilarious given the cosmic nature of what we're talking about.
I think I know where you're going with this.
We have this multidimensional entity, Seth, explaining the secrets of the universe. And meanwhile, Jane Roberts is just checking her mailbox, terrified of rejection slips.
It is the great paradox of the Seth material, isn't it?
It really is.
You have this profound metaphysical content coming through a woman who is living a very normal, very human life.
Right.
And we have to remember the context here. In November 1964, Jane Roberts isn't some, guru. She's a writer. She is working hard. She is trying to sell her work.
Just hustling.
She is dealing with the same anxieties any freelancer deals with.
And the source material mentions a specific letter that arrived just the day before this session. Who is it from?
Playboy Magazine.
Playboy. I love that. I absolutely love that.
It's fantastic. Jane had received a long letter from an editor at Playboy. Apparently, she had met him years ago at a writer's conference or something like that.
Okay.
He rejected the piece she sent, but, and this is the key, he asked to see more of her work.
Which, for a writer, is basically a gold star. It's a no, but it's a please come back.
A good rejection.
It's the kind of rejection that makes you pop a bottle of champagne,
Precisely. It validates the effort.
Yeah.
And Jane and her husband, Rob, they start connecting the dots here. They look back at a previous session, session 104, where Seth had actually made a prediction about a writing situation.
Right. Seth had hinted that there would be some movement or some interest regarding a sale. And then, boom, a letter from Playboy arrives.
It's ironic, isn't it?
A little.
You have a spirit guide, an entity you normally associate with, high-minded spiritual evolution.
Sure, yeah.
Essentially giving career advice that aligns with one of the most commercially successful and controversial magazines of the 20th century.
It just grounds the whole thing. It reminds you that spiritual insight doesn't mean you stop living in the real world.
No.
You still have bills to pay. You still want to get published. You still want validation from your peers.
And Seth seems to be completely aware of this. He doesn't dismiss her career ambitions as unspiritual. He never tells her to go live in a cave.
No.
In fact, later in the session, he encourages her. He validates that her work is moving in the right direction. It suggests that spirituality includes the mundane success of daily life.
Speaking of validation, there's another detail in the intro notes that I found fascinating, but also, I have to be honest, a little bit skeptical about.
The nodule.
The nodule, or a ganglion, right? It's basically a fluid-filled cyst that can appear on joints. Jane had one on her left wrist.
Yes, and these can be quite painful. They restrict movement.
And Seth had talked about this too.
He had. Back in session 98, so about 8 sessions prior,
Yeah.
Seth had stated explicitly that the nodule would disappear. He even gave a timeline.
Wow.
And by session 106, the notes say it is almost gone.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate here.
Please do.
I'm the guy driving the car listening to this, and I'm thinking, ganglions go away, you know? If you hit them, they used to call them Bible bumps because people would whack them with a heavy book to burst them. They vanish. Or they just reabsorb on their own.
Sure, they can.
Are we sure this is a metaphysical event, or is Jane just attributing a natural bodily function to Seth?
That's a completely fair pushback. And you are right, cysts do resolve. But I think the chilling part here isn't necessarily the miracle of the healing itself, but the specificity of the prediction. Seth said it would go, and it went, within the time frame they discussed. It's the correlation that matters.
So it's about the pattern.
It's about the pattern.
Yeah.
And what I love about this detail is Jane's reaction to it, or rather, her lack of reaction.
What do you mean?
The notes say she had, in fact, forgotten about it.
Wait, she forgot that a tumor-like thing on her wrist was vanishing.
She only remembered it because her arm started aching when she held it over her head for a long time.
That is so human. It's such a perfect observation of human nature.
Isn't it?
We get a miracle, a physical healing, and we just get used to it instantly. Oh yeah, the lump is gone. Whatever. My arm is tired.
It speaks to how quickly we normalize changes in our reality. Seth predicts a healing, the healing happens, and instead of being awestruck, we just move on to the next annoyance.
It's a very grounding detail before we get into the high strangeness of the session.
It shows us that Jane isn't walking around in a constant state of holy rapture. She's just a person getting through your week.
And the session itself, it starts in the usual way. Jane takes off her glasses, her eyes go dark, she starts pacing.
The transition. We have to remember, physically, her voice changes. Her mannerisms change. She adopts the persona of Seth.
And Seth comes through with a bit of a promise. He says, I have been promising you a short session so long that tonight I may finally give you one.
He's charming. You can really hear the personality there. He knows he has a tendency to ramble.
He adds, unless, of course, I get carried away.
Which is Seth in a nutshell. He loves to teach, he loves to explain, but in this case, he's being mindful. He acknowledges that the previous session, session 105, was a heavy one.
A lot of energy.
A lot of effort for Rupert. That's his name for Jane.
So he's being a guardian here. He's saying, I'm going to take it easy on you tonight because we went hard last time.
Exactly. He's protecting the instrument. He mentions that he is pleased with a chapter Jane has written for her book on ESP. So he opens with praise. He opens with reassurance.
He's setting the stage.
Establishing a safe space before he drops the heavy philosophy.
But then he drops the bomb.
He does.
He starts talking about the nature of matter. And this is where we need to slow down and really unpack what he's saying. Because he says something that, if you really think about it, it's terrifying.
It is the core of his philosophy.
Yeah.
It challenges everything we think we know about being alive.
He says, and I'm quoting here, it is true in one respect, in a very large respect, that your physical universe as such does not exist in the manner in which you suppose that it does.
Does not exist. Let those words just hang there for a second.
Okay, my table feels solid. My microphone is solid. If I punch the wall, my hand breaks. What does he mean it doesn't exist? Is he saying it's all a hallucination?
Not exactly. He clarifies immediately. He says, in another sense, it does legitimately exist, but, and this is the crucial part, in a way in which your ordinary senses would never perceive it.
So our senses are lying to us.
Not lying, necessarily. Filtering. This is where Seth introduces the concept of reference points.
Reference points. That sounds technical, like GPS coordinates or something.
It is a bit technical. Think of it this way. Imagine you are standing in a room that is pitch black, infinite darkness. But you have a flashlight.
Okay, I've got the flip.
Wherever you point that beam, you see an object, a chair, a table, a bookshelf. When the light hits it, it exists for you. When the light moves away,
it vanishes back into the dark.
Exactly. Seth says our consciousness is that flashlight. The darkness isn't empty. It's filled with infinite data chaos, potential, other dimensions. but we only perceive the tiny slice we shine our light on.
And the light is our focus.
The light is our focus, but here is the kicker. Seth says we have been trained, socially and biologically, to only point the flashlight at certain things. We all agree to point the light at time and space and matter. We create a consensus reality because we're all using the same reference points.
So we're basically ignoring most of reality.
That is the implication. We focus on specific points to create a cohesive picture. A table, a chair, a person. But Seth says if we distinguished other, quite legitimate reference points, our physical universe would be, well, it would be indistinguishable.
He says it would look like a maze of seemingly chaotic data.
Yes. If you took off the human glasses or the human filter, the room you are sitting in would dissolve into chaos. Not because it isn't there, but because the order you perceive is something you are projecting onto it.
That reminds me of VR, virtual reality.
Go on, that's a modern analogy Seth didn't have, but it really fits.
Well, when you have the headset on, you see a castle, you see a dragon, it feels solid. But if you take the headset off, you're just in an empty room.
Right.
The data for the dragon is there in the computer code, but without the headset, the reference point, it's just zeros and ones. It's chaos.
That is a very, very apt analogy. Seth is saying that our physical senses are the headset. We are tuned into a specific frequency of reality.
And he uses a historical example to explain this, right? He brings up Freud.
Yes, Sigmund Freud.
I feel like people always roll their eyes at Freud these days, but Seth uses him in a really interesting way here.
That's a brilliant connection.
Yeah.
Seth uses Freud to explain how reality can literally expand.
Because before Freud, we didn't really think about the subconscious.
Exactly. Seth says, as for example, Freud added a dimension to your world with his discovery of the true subconscious. Before this, your psychological world was a flat one.
A flat world. A 2D world.
Think about that image for a second. Before psychology really dug into the subconscious in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, humans viewed themselves as purely surface-level creatures.
I do this because I want that.
Yeah.
End of story.
Right. It was two-dimensional. The human experience was a flat plane of action and reaction.
And then Freud comes along and says, no, there's a whole basement level you don't see.
And suddenly the psychological world gained depth. It became 3D. But Seth is arguing that this wasn't just a change in opinion.
No.
It was a change in the universe.
Because ideas are real.
Precisely. Seth says ideas and psychic energy form the basis of the physical universe. So when Freud introduced the idea of the subconscious, he didn't just describe something that was already there. In a way, he helped bring it into focus for the collective consciousness.
He expanded the boundaries of what is real.
He did.
That's the part that gives me chills. Seth says discoveries in this realm will be fully as magnificent as those discoveries in the world of physical matter.
We tend to think that discovering a new continent or a new planet is real discovery. But discovering a new aspect of the mind, we think of that as just theory.
Yeah, philosophy.
Seth says no. Discovering inner reality is just as tangible. It literally changes the shape of the universe.
He says, an expansion and thrust in the realm of idea will serve to actually expand and change the nature, scope, and dimension of your physical universe.
So if we apply this to you, the listener.
Yeah, what does this mean for the person driving to work right now listening to this?
It means that by learning this material, by just considering that reality is flexible, you are not just learning a fun fact. You are literally expanding the universe you inhabit.
You're adding a room to your house that wasn't there yesterday.
You're adding a new reference point. You're pointing the flashlight at a corner of the dark room you've never looked at before.
And once you have that reference point, you can't unsee it. The world is no longer flat.
Exactly. The germ theory is another good example. Before we knew about germs, they didn't exist in our experience. We got sick from bad air.
The miasma theory.
Right. Once the idea of germs took hold, our physical behavior changed. We washed hands, we sterilized tools. The physical world changed because the idea changed.
So we've got this heavy, mind-blowing theory about reality being a construct, but then Seth pivots back to something practical. He talks about clairvoyance.
Yes, because if reality is constructed by focus, then theoretically we should be able to see outside the box sometimes.
We should be able to peek.
We should be able to pick up information that isn't right in front of our noses.
But Seth has a very specific attitude about this. He's not into magic tricks. He's not here to pull a rabbit out of a hat.
No, he is not. He mentions that incidences of clairvoyance might appear frequently to help Rupert to help Jane gain confidence.
He calls them small, helpful hints.
Right. But listen to the tone he uses. He says, I do not consider these small, helpful hints of future events to be the sort of demonstration which, in certain circumstances, could annoy me.
Could annoy me. I love that. He sounds like a professor who is tired of students asking, will this be on the test?
It's the impatience he dislikes. He says, any annoyance that I do feel is merely with the impatience that requests for demonstrations may hide.
He wants them to do the work. He doesn't want them just asking for parlor tricks to prove he's real.
Which is so consistent with the whole reference point theory.
How so?
If you are constantly asking for proof in the physical world, you are reinforcing the physical world as the only reality. You aren't expanding your focus, you're just staring harder at the wall.
Whoa. That's a great way to put it. Asking for physical proof is just reinforcing the illusion. You're demanding that the ghosts show up on the 2D map.
Exactly. Seth wants them to relax and let the new data come in naturally. He tells them they are moving into a profitable season.
A profitable season. That sounds good, especially for a writer.
He credits it to their discipline and focused energies. Again, it's not magic, it's focus. They have been doing the work sitting for sessions, doing the experiments, and so the results are coming.
Speaking of experiments, this is where we need to open the notebook.
Yes.
Because the source material for this episode isn't just what Seth said. It includes Jane Roberts' personal notes from the appendix.
And this is where the chilling vibe really sets in for me. Because theory is one thing, experiencing it is something else entirely.
Jane kept a psychological time notebook. Psych time was this practice Seth taught them. And we should probably explain what that actually is because it sounds like a sci-fi term.
It does. Psychological time is essentially a technique for switching reference points. Seth instructed Jane to find a quiet place, sit or lie down, and systematically withdraw her attention from the physical world.
So close your eyes.
It's more than that. It's about ignoring the sensory input. Ignoring the sound of the traffic outside, ignoring the feeling of the chair under you, ignoring the visual data on the back of your eyelids.
Turning the volume down.
It's about turning down the volume on the physical world so that the inner signals, which are usually drowned out, can be heard.
It's like turning off the high beams of a car so you can see the stars.
That is a perfect analogy. The stars are always there, but the headlights blind you to them. Psych time is turning off the headlights.
So Jane is doing this. She's turning off her headlights. And she logs some physical sensations that well, they're trippy.
They are. Let's look at the entry for November 12th and 13th.
Okay, on November 12th, she notes a strong, thrilling sensation. And then she writes about a good feeling of enlargement in tops of feet and hands.
Enlarged?
Yeah. She says her arms felt as though they would lift up out of themselves.
This is a classic symptom of the dissociation of consciousness. It's that feeling that your energy body, or your astral body, whatever term you want to use, is loosening from the physical shell.
Okay.
The physical body feels heavy or distorted, while the inner self feels light.
But why enlargement? Why do her hands feel huge?
Because without the visual confirmation of this is where my skin ends, your proprioception, your sense of self in space expands. The energy field doesn't stop at the skin. When you stop looking at your hands, you start feeling your hands. And the feeling is much bigger than the visual.
That makes sense. But then on November 13th, it gets even weirder. She says, the bed beneath me rippled.
Rippled.
For a moment, I thought I might be attempting to travel or lift up.
Imagine lying in your bed. It's solid, it's a mattress, you know it's coils and foam, and suddenly it feels like water. It feels like it's waving beneath you.
That would freak me out. I'm not gonna lie. I would jump up and turn on the light.
It creates that chilling effect because it violates the rules of our physical reference points. Beds are solid. When they stop feeling solid, your mind panics a little. It realizes the safety net is gone.
And that's not even the scariest part. She has this vision of a doorknob.
The brown doorknob. It sounds so mundane, a doorknob. But listen to how she describes it. She's falling asleep and she sees very clearly a dark brown doorknob that was on a white door. So plainly, I thought my eyes were open.
Hyper reality.
Why is that scary? It's just a doorknob.
Because it's out of context. If you see a dragon, you know you're dreaming. If you see a doorknob that looks more real than the actual doorknob in your room, but it's floating in your mind's eye, that is a glitch in the matrix. It suggests that the inner vision can be just as high definition as the outer vision.
It blurs the line. If I can see a doorknob that isn't there and it looks real, is the doorknob I can touch actually real?
Exactly. It forces you to question the nature of the real world. And notice the symbolism, a doorknob.
Oh, right, opening a door. She is on the threshold. She is about to open a door to a new dimension of experience. Her subconscious is giving her a very literal symbol. Here's the door. Are you going to turn the knob?
And she implies that the brown color was very specific. It wasn't just a generic knob. It was a specific knob.
Which implies it exists somewhere. Maybe in a past, maybe in a probable future, maybe in a parallel coordinate. But she tuned into it.
She also sees faces, right? A boy's head with dark curly hair on a scroll.
Yes. Glimpses, like tuning that radio dial we talked about.
Yeah.
Just snippets of other channels coming through the static.
It's amazing that she recorded all of this so meticulously.
It was part of the discipline Seth asked for. By recording it, she validates it, she gives it weight, she makes it a reference point.
Right.
If she ignored it, it would fade like a dream. By writing it down, she nails it into her reality.
There's one more piece of the puzzle from the notebooks. A dream. And this is where the Playboy thing comes back around.
The dream of November 16th.
This one is fascinating because it connects everything. The Playboy Magazine, the dead relatives, the humor. It's like a soup of all the themes we've discussed.
Walk us through it.
So Jane is dreaming she's with a Dr. Kiley. Now, Dr. Kiley is dead. He's been dead for 7 years.
A barrier has been crossed.
Right. And in the dream, Dr. Kiley and another doctor are joking around, they're clowning, and then Dr. Kiley grabs Jane and spins her around in the air.
A sensation of motion, flying, lightness, connecting back to that lifting up feeling she had in psych time.
Good point.
The physical sensations of the spirit world seem to be lightness and humor.
And then in the dream, Jane finds herself in Saratoga Springs, and she's explaining to a friend that these two men, the dead doctors, had crashed through a barrier of some kind.
She is lucid enough in the dream to understand the metaphysics. She knows they have crossed from death to life.
But then the conversation shifts to Playboy.
Of course it does.
She's talking to her high school friend, Nan. And Nan says Playboy is a good magazine, and Jane agrees. She says, if one was to read uncritically, Playboy would hurt you least of all.
And she mentions they are considering her work.
It's the bleed-through again. The waking anxiety about the magazine sale is showing up in the dream, but it's mixed with dead relatives and barrier crashing.
It shows how the mind processes reality. It doesn't compartmentalize like we do. In the dream state, a dead doctor and a Playboy editor are just symbols floating in the same soup.
And Seth would probably say they're both just reference points.
Precisely. One is a reference point for career, one is a reference point for death. But to the inner self, they are just data. They are just places to focus the beam.
So bringing it back to the session itself, Seth wraps things up pretty quickly.
He does. He keeps his promise. He said it would be a short session.
He says, it is difficult, rather, for me to leave you so early since I enjoy our sessions.
I love that line. I enjoy our sessions.
It makes him feel, I don't know, like a friend, not just a computer spitting out data.
It shows a relationship. He isn't just dumping information. He enjoys the interaction. He enjoys the energy exchange. He enjoys their company.
But he's strict about the health of his medium. He says, my purpose is to keep you both in a state of disciplined exuberance.
Disciplined exuberance. What a fantastic phrase.
What does that mean to you? Because discipline and exuberance feel like opposites. Discipline is strict. Exuberance is wild.
It means joy, but controlled joy. High energy, but focused energy. Not manic, not scattered. He wants them happy and excited because that high energy helps the channeling, but grounded enough to do the work. He doesn't want them burning out.
So he ends the session at 9:39 p.m. That's super early. Usually they go until midnight.
And Jane is disappointed.
She says she feels let down.
She compares it to a guest coming over for a long chat and just saying hello and leaving.
It highlights how much she has come to rely on these sessions. It's not a chore for her anymore. She wants the connection.
And perhaps she wants the expansion. When she's in trance, when Seth is coming through, her world isn't flat anymore. It's multidimensional. It's full of potential. Coming back to regular life, checking the mailbox, nursing a sore wrist, probably feels a bit boring by comparison.
That's a great point. Once you've seen the 3D world, the 2D world looks pretty dull. Once you've used the flashlight to see the treasure in the corner, sitting in the dark feels like a waste of time.
Exactly.
So we've covered the mundane, the magazine, we've covered the heavy philosophy, the reference points, we've covered the trippy sensations, the rippling bed. What does this all mean for us?
So what does this all mean?
Yeah, let's unpack the big takeaway here.
I think the core message of session 106 is that we are the architects of our own experience.
In a literal way.
In a literal, physical way. Seth isn't saying think positive like a greeting card. He's saying that the objects, the events, the very time and space we occupy are the result of where we point our mental camera.
And if we move the camera,
the scene changes. If we shift our reference points like Freud did with psychology, or like Jane is doing with her experiments, we reveal new continents of reality.
We turn the static into a picture.
Yes. And the chaos that we fear. The unknown. It's just order we haven't recognized yet.
That's comforting, actually. The chaos isn't scary. It's just waiting to be focused.
It is potential. Infinite potential.
And I love the humor of it all. I love that you can be exploring the deepest secrets of the universe and still worry about Playboy Magazine.
It reminds us not to take ourselves too seriously. We are spiritual beings, yes, but we are also human. We can have profound insights and still enjoy a good joke or a mundane success.
You can have disciplined exuberance.
It can.
I think that's going to be my mantra for the week.
It's a good one.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. I want to leave our listeners with a thought, a little homework assignment for the brain.
Let's hear it.
We talked about how focusing on specific reference points creates our world. And if we don't focus on them, it's just chaos or it's invisible.
Right.
So what is sitting right next to you right now that you aren't seeing simply because you haven't tuned your dial to it?
That is the question.
Is there a brown doorknob floating in your living room? Is there a dead relative cracking jokes in the corner? Is there a solution to your biggest problem hovering right in front of your face, but you're just too focused on the problem to see the solution reference point?
What implies chaos to you might just be a pattern you haven't recognized.
Exactly. Maybe the ghost is just a channel you haven't subscribed to yet.
I like that.
If you want to dive deeper into this, and trust me, we have only scratched the surface of what Seth has to offer, you need to go to the source.
Yes. This was a deep dive into session 106 of the early sessions, book 3.
Published by the New Awareness Network.
If you want to tune your own dial, go to sethcenter.com/the early sessions. Pick up the books, read them, let them break your brain a little bit. It's good for you.
It really is. It's like yoga for your consciousness.
Indeed.
Thank you all for listening. Thanks for sitting by the fire with us.
It was a pleasure.
Until next time, keep your reference points flexible.
And your exuberance disciplined.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.